Toast Garden. Today I am making canned marinara sauce, and I'm using the tomatoes that I harvested yesterday from our polytunnel. There's a whole bunch that were ready to be picked. There's also a whole bunch that have not quite ripened enough yet, so I will be watching those over the next week very closely. The polytunnel now it's started to die back. A lot of the leaves are dying back and there's a lot of powdery mildew in there. Very typical for late fall. And I'm actually really happy that we have as many tomatoes as we do right now, being that it's, you know, the middle of October. So I think because of our dry and warm and still sunshiny weather, it's allowed the tomatoes to continue growing later than they normally do. So I am going to show you today a homemade canned spaghetti marinara sauce recipe that we have used for years. We love it. We make sure that we make enough marinara to last us all the way through the year until next harvest. So we end up with about 2 large jars per month that we can use depending on what our harvest is like. So without any further hesitation, let me show you the ingredients that go into this recipe. So keeping in mind that we've adjusted the portions of this recipe to accommodate the amount of tomatoes we have, I'm just going to read you off the true recipe portions. It won't look like the portion that we have here in the bowl, but we would normally have 12 cups of peeled, drained, and chopped tomatoes. We would also have 1 cup of finely chopped green bell peppers, followed by 1 cup of chopped red bell peppers. We would then use 2 cups of the onions right here. You can use white or yellow onions, whatever you have on hand. And the 2 cups is approximately 3 medium onions. We also need over here a 1/2 cup of vegetable or canola oil, which we have over here. Then we have 1/4 to 1/2 cup of granulated or brown sugar, depending on what you want to use. And then we have 3 tablespoons of salt over here. And I use the canning salt is what it says on the recipe, or the kosher salt is what you can use. You also need 1.5 tablespoons of dried oregano, 1.5 tablespoons of dried basil, and 1.5 teaspoons of dried parsley. We also have 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce, which I can never say. And we also would want to use 1 bay leaf. All right, over here as well, sorry, I forgot, is 2 tablespoons of finely minced garlic. And over here is canned tomato paste, and normally about 3 cans, but again, you can adjust it based on your tomato volume. Okay, and I'm going to read through the rest of the recipe here. So instructions number 1, combine all the ingredients except the lemon juice in a large 8-quart pot, which I have right here, and stir to combine well and bring to a boil. All right, so let's start. Right here are the tomatoes. So I'm going to pour these into this bowl. You'll see that we didn't actually remove the skin. Dan and I actually enjoy eating the skin on the tomatoes, but if you prefer, you can de-skin them first. Once it's all into this pot, then I'm going to take my handy dandy masher and start to mash away. All right, and about there is the consistency that you want it, just a bit of a smash. Now, I will then go in and I will add my onions. I will add the green peppers. And I will add the red peppers. And mix together. Let me use this one here. Mix until combined. Oh, I can smell it. It smells so good. All that onion and tomato. The green pepper is really coming through as well. Once that's mixed up a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and add my tomato paste. In that goes. And this will add a little more flavor, and it'll also thicken things up for us a little bit. that's in there, I will add in my herbs to mix it the rest of the way. A little bit of everything. Bay leaf I'll leave until the end. Garlic paste, or garlic, and the sugar, and the oil. Perfect. And then continue mixing. Oh yeah, that smells good. Now that I've got that all stirred in, I'll finally just add my few bay leaves into there. Great. Now that we've brought everything in the pot and we've stirred it together, we're going to bring to a boil over on the stove. And then we're going to reduce the heat and simmer for 1 hour. And yes, this does take 1 hour. It could take a little bit longer depending on the volume that you're cooking. So be sure to give yourselves lots of time to make this. The canning process is not quick. It is a slow going recipe. So you want to end up doing this like on a Sunday afternoon when you have the Cooking Network on in the background, keeping you company, and you're in your comfy clothes and you can spend the majority of the afternoon making this. All right, so let's put it on the stove. All right, let's turn this burner on and put the lid on. And you want to watch this continually, stirring it up from the bottom because it is tomato, it will burn to the bottom. So we'll keep continuously stirring it until it comes to a boil, and then I'll walk you through the next steps. So it's already starting to bubble. I can hear it doing its thing. So I will quickly clean off the counters, get these dishes gone so that I can continue with the rest of the process. And remember, you will be watching your pot every 2 to 3 minutes. You'll be doing a good stir right from the bottom of the pot just to make sure that none of the tomatoes start to burn. You do not want burnt tomato in your marinara. So at this point, I've put the timer on for an hour and I'm going to stir continually every 4 to 5 minutes, bringing the sauce up from the bottom of the pot to make sure that it does not burn. Have I said that enough times? You don't want it to burn. Trust me, I've been there. So I'll see you back here in an hour. Okay, we are officially at the 1 hour point, and I had to put a splash guard on top of my pot for the last little bit because it thickened up and it started splashing onto the stove. So I'll show you what my consistency looks like for the marinara. Put that off, and here it is. So nice and thick now. Oh my goodness, that will taste so good on spaghetti or on any other pasta that you want to put this onto. And then you can see also the volume has now condensed. So the water evaporated off and now I'm left with this nice thick sauce. The level of the side of the pot here has decreased, and I have been using a spatula periodically just to incorporate that into the sauce. But we are done. So I'm going to turn off the stove and we will start doing our canning together. So I put the burner back on to bring this back to a rolling boil for the canning jars because they've been sitting here in the hot water while I've been making the marinara sauce. So now I will shut this off and I will make sure to put my utensils that I'm going to use as part of the canning procedures into the hot water so that they are sterilized as well. So I'm going to need to sterilize my ladle. This also acts as a measure for how full I should make each canning jar full of marinara. So you'll see I'll use this in a moment. These are for bringing the cans out of the water, and then these are tongs then to pull anything else out of the hot water that I need to use in this procedure. Also, I have to plop these into the water. I turn off the boiling water and I take off the lid to the pot, and then I will plop these in there. I don't leave these in there while it is a rolling boil. I wait for it to cool down just a little bit, and then I put these in and just do a quick dip. And the screw tops are already in here with the jars being sterilized. So the screw tops are there. I will turn this off and we are ready to roll. All right, there they are. I've pulled all of the hot jars out of the water, and now I'm going to use a tablespoon measure, and I'm going to put 2 tablespoons of this lemon juice into every single one of these jars. And now that I have my lemon juice in the bottom of each of the jars, I have to now fill each of the canning jars up to a 1/2 inch above the top. So that's where this handy dandy little funnel comes in, because it shows me here where the 1/2 inch level is. And it also helps me, of course, not splash everywhere when I'm using my ladle and putting in the sauce. So now I am busy ladling in the marinara sauce into each one of the jars. Now trust me, I really want to actually make some pasta and have a big plate of this right now, but I know my hard work is totally worth it. If I just wait and I don't eat it today, in January and February, when it is snowing sideways, I'm gonna have a delicious plate of pasta and marinara sauce, and at a time when tomatoes aren't growing, I'm gonna have this freshness in the sauce of fresh tomatoes in the off season. So it is worth not devouring it right now, although I am hoping that there's a little bit of extra here after I top up all these jars, but I will not dive into it until the winter, I promise. Okay, so I ended up with 5 1-quart jars. Normally the recipe is around 4 of these, but because we had some extra, we ended up with 1 extra jar this time, which is great. As you can see, it's kind of messy work, so I always put the towel down to make things nice and easy for cleanup. The next step, which is really, really important, is to make sure that there is no sauce on the rim of each jar. So you want to take a cloth and dip it into the hot water that we sterilize the jars in, and just make sure that that rim is really clean before you put the lids on top. Next step, I'm going to take one of the lids and just put it on top of the jar, like so, and then take one of the screw tops and screw it on. And you want to be really, really light with this. Don't make it tight at all. Just make it enough that it just closes. And do that with the remaining 4 jars. You can use a brawn or some sort of a pulser in order to make this more sauce-like. We like to have the chunks, that we like to have the skins of the tomatoes, and we like the chunks of the tomatoes to come out in the marinara sauce on top of our pasta. But if you want a smoother consistency, you could always take the brawn, or like I said, some kind of a pulse device, and when it's in the pot before you put it into the jars, just run that brawn through there and chop it up a little bit finer, and then you can pour it into the jars. All right, everything has a lid on it, everything has a screw top on it, so we are ready to go back into the pot. And I just put them in one at a time, very carefully. And you want to make sure that the jar is entirely submersed into the water. So I don't have a large level of water in here intentionally, because as I put my jars in, the level of the water increases. So I'm gonna wait until I have my 4th jar in. Whoa, it's getting full now. I might have to take some of the water out, or you might have to put some water in. So long as you get all of these in here and they are fully covered, then you're good to go. All right, all of them are in here, and now the air is escaping through the jars, which is great. I'm going to turn this on to high, and I'm going to boil it for 40 minutes. Now, again, that's my elevation. So depending on where you are located and what your elevation is, it will change the canning time. So you want to make sure to look up the canning instructions for your area. I don't want to mislead you. I don't want to make you sick. So make sure you double check the amount of time it's going to take to actually process your preserves. Okay, and when your timer goes off, just reduce or turn off your element and take out the jars. Do not force the center of the lid down. Let them pop all on their own. They can sit there and rest, and each lid should pop, and that indicates that your canning process was done correctly. So they are safe to consume. Never press down on the middle, just let them pop and suck in themselves. That is just how easy it is to make 5 cans of marinara sauce. I am looking forward to devouring this over the winter, and our pantry now is full of jars just like this one. I will leave the hot jars now for the next 6 hours or so to fully cool before I label them and put them into the pantry. I'll be sure to put a link to the recipe in the comment area below. And remember, if you like what you saw today, give us a big thumbs up. And if you want to subscribe for free to the channel, you'll be alerted to the very next video that we post. And my goodness, there's some good ones coming up. I can assure you of that. So until next time, remember, your dreams can become a reality just like ours have. All you have to do is take that very first step. And maybe it's investing in your first set of canning jars and getting a few tools, putting them aside, and waiting until next year's harvest. And remember, there's lots of preserves sold at your local farmer's market. So next time you go to buy one, you'll appreciate that lovely bit of tastiness even more, because you know how much time and effort goes into making 1 can of yumminess. Until next time, have a great day. Thank you.